just discussed in the previous segment that the US is potentially considering something like the Granite Act to shield against foreign censors, which is a fantastic thing. The US should absolutely do something like this because free speech is a God-given right, not the right of any government, and the US has laws to protect that God-given right. So you see where we look at this and think, gosh, this sounds a little bit hypocritical when even across several states and at a federal level, bills are being introduced, it seems almost on the daily at this point, to do exactly to the American people what foreign censors like the UK and Australia are doing to their people. And it isn't even a new playbook. This always comes with the same sales pitch. We have to protect children from social media harms. Therefore, every single person, including adults, have to identify themselves online. This is a palatable way to introduce digital ID and control speech through private companies so the government can say, well, we didn't do it. They did. And of course, like we saw with the Twitter files, in the end, no one is ever held accountable for violating human beings' right to free speech. And by the time a social credit system is in place through these online platforms, well, there'll be no one other than AI to appeal to argue your case. By then, computer says no is the standard response with no recourse. We're describing a future dystopia that really is not very far in the future at all, and we've been covering bills that lead to that dystopia in recent weeks. Now, what is being described as a monster big enough for bipartisan unity is inside the halls of Washington. This article comes to us from Reclaim the Net. It says, Congress goes parental on social media and your privacy. Washington has finally found a monster big enough for bipartisan unity, the attention economy. In a moment of rare cross-aisle cooperation, lawmakers have introduced 2 censorship-heavy bills and a tax scheme under the banner of the Unanxious Generation package. The name, borrowed from Jonathan Haidt's pop psychology hit The Anxious Generation, reveals the obvious pitch. Congress will save America's children from Silicon Valley through online regulation and speech controls. Representative Jake Auchincloss of Massachusetts, who's built a career out of publicly scolding tech companies, says he's going directly at their jugular. The plan: tie legal immunity to content moderation, tax the ad money, and make sure kids can't get near an app without producing an age signal. That would also mean adults have to produce the age signal, by the way. If that sounds like a euphemism for surveillance, that's because it is. The first bill, the Deep Fake Liability Act, revises Section 230, the sacred shield that lets platforms host your political rants, memes, and conspiracy reels without getting sued for them. Under the new proposal, that immunity becomes conditional on a vague duty of care to prevent deepfake porn, cyberstalking, and digital forgeries. Times report doesn't define that last term, which could be a problem since it sounds like anything from fake celebrity videos to an unflattering AI meme of your senator. If digital forgery turns out to include parody or satire, every political cartoonist might suddenly need a lawyer on speed dial. Auchincloss insists the goal is accountability, not censorship. If a company knows it'll be liable for deep fake porn, cyberstalking, or AI-created content, that becomes a board-level problem, he says. In other words, a law designed to make executives sweat. But with AI-generated content specifically excluded from Section 230 protections, the bill effectively redefines the internet's liability protections. Next up, we have the Parents Over Platforms Act, which reads like a spy's dream version of child safety. The idea is to require mobile app stores and developers to assure users' ages through commercially reasonable efforts. Developers must determine whether a user is an adult or a minor with a reasonable level of certainty. How they're supposed to do that without collecting more personal data is unclear. Privacy advocates might want to sit down for this one. The bill's co-sponsor, Republican Erin Houchin of Indiana, says it comes from personal experience. Her daughter, age 13, hacked around our parental controls and started chatting with strangers. My goal is to put parents back in the driver's seat, she says. Fair enough, but that driver's seat now comes with a dashboard full of federal switches and levers. If passed, parents would input their children's ages into the App Store, which would then transmit the age signal to every app. Kids under 13 would be locked out of restricted platforms. The potential for data errors and cross-app confusion seems baked in, but Congress appears unbothered. I will also say there that the parents have to input their children's ages into the app, but that requires some sort of assurance of the parents' ages, right? So it's not just about a parent going on the app and saying, yes, my child is 15, click here to consent. No, because a child could do that. So therefore, the parent has to link their ID somehow or consent to age verification themselves to prove that they are of legal age to be confirming their child's age. It also, as we've discussed before, would likely require some sort of digital family tree being formed, managed by private companies with ties to God knows who, whether it be tech companies or foreign governments, we don't know. Rounding out the trio is the Education Not Endless Scrolling Act, which would slap a 50% tax on digital ad revenue over $2.5 billion. The money would fund tutoring programs, local journalism, and technical education. Auchincloss explains this is for the major social media corporations, not the recipe blogs. He adds these social media corporations have made hundreds of billions of dollars, making us angrier, lonelier, and sadder, and they have no accountability to the American public. Well, again, this is a free market issue. If people recognize that they are angrier, lonelier, and sadder, they don't have to use social media. And if they determine themselves that they're fine to keep using social media, they don't need to add their age verification to it to keep doing it. It goes on. The proposal reads like a moral tax. The government will collect penance for every click. Both Auchincloss and Houchen frame their effort as a bipartisan stand for the children, launching a kids' online safety caucus to formalize their alliance. Houchen puts it simply, good policy supersedes politics. It's a line you usually hear right before an entire generation of digital policy disasters. I couldn't have put it better myself. The timing is no accident. Congress is now flooded with child safety bills. Auchincloss says he's tired of waiting. I don't like to be passive or wait for the ground to shift, he says. I'm trying to be an earthquake. It's a fitting metaphor, though he might consider what happens after the shaking stops. Once the dust settles, the unanxious generation may find that the cure for digital anxiety looks a lot like preemptive censorship and surveillance wrapped in a moral crusade. Now, we've said before that we only need to look to countries like Australia and the UK as examples of where this leads to. It's introduced as protecting children from online harms, but ultimately every single adult has to verify their age in order to prove they're not a child. This is what it's all about. It is not about protecting children. It's about building a digital social credit system online, which is where this eventually leads. And it's a way to enforce digital ID on everyone. And while these governments will argue that it has nothing to do with digital ID, eventually it gets to that point. And we have a very, very good example out of Australia where they pushed this through in December of 24. And as of July 2025, just 6-7 short months later, they were saying, well, yes, digital ID may be used as a way. So it's absolutely not. We're not doing this to, well, it may be, but that's not going to be the method of enforcement, we assure you. Well, it takes 6 months before that statement changes too. We want to show you an article out of Australia. There are 2 teens that are actually challenging the social media ban in the High Court as we speak. This is from news.com.au. A couple of 15-year-olds are trying to derail Australia's looming social media ban by taking their fight to the High Court. It goes on that the ban kicks in on December 10th, just a few days away, and will force platforms to verify users' age. They could be slapped with a fine of up to $49 million if they fail to comply. Sold by the Albanese government as a means to safeguard children from the harms and dangers of social media, plaintiffs Noah Jones and Macy Nayland on Wednesday accused Canberra of trying to silence them. We are the true digital natives and we want to remain educated, robust and savvy in our digital world, Jones said. We're disappointed in a lazy government that blanket bans under 16s rather than investing in programs to help kids be safe on social media. They should protect kids with safeguards, not silence. Macy also charged the ban hampered political discourse among future voters. Young people like me are the voters of tomorrow, she said. Why on earth would we be banned from expressing our views? So here's my opinion. The child protection angle is literally a psyop. They're not trying to protect children. They're establishing a worldwide digital ID system. Let's just say it exactly for what it is. However, there is an argument to be made here regarding the future generation and their ability to learn, participate in the town square, which is actually part of their development into functioning members of society who will be expected to use the internet for the rest of their lives, be heard as future voters and workers, taxpayers. There are many valuable things people 16 and under can access or learn online without descending into some of the darker pits of the internet. And that really is a job for the parents. If you are telling me that we're in such a dire position worldwide with our future generation that governments now have to parent them, the solution is worse and far more sinister than the problem. I'm from the government and I'm here to help parent for you. Nope, not today, Satan. We heard earlier that Republican Erin Houchins said she had a very personal reason and a vested interest in doing this because her child hacked or bypassed somehow the parental controls she had in place. So rather than institute a more rigorous parental control in her household, we're not sure what sort of password or setup she had. Now all adults across America have to verify who they are and how old they are online because apparently her child managed to bypass her parental controls. Do we see how insane this sounds? It's like finding a mouse in your house and destroying your entire house with a sledgehammer rather than laying a mousetrap with some cheese. But the mousetrap is being laid out to American parents. By tugging at your core value of wanting to protect your children, something that is biologically wired into you, they are convincing adults to adopt a worldwide digital ID system. Your answer, and I mean this in the strongest possible terms, must be, dear government, get the heck out of our lives. Simple.